All right, happy Friday. Happy Friday. We're going to be talking about several things today. We're going to be doing a November market update, but we're going to be looking at live what are properties selling for now. And we've seen some adjustments. So we're going to be looking at, okay, this is what's on the market at the moment. So that's a thing. Want to give you an interest rate update and how what we're seeing is being impacted by inflation, deflation, whatever you want to call it. We're gonna conquer that today. We're gonna really cover that, and I'll do a share screen with you guys. We're gonna really analyze like several different segments in the marketplace, and we're gonna analyze, okay, what's the difference between now versus what we saw in the past. So that's gonna be really intriguing. That's coming up, and I feel like some of the realtors that might watch this might want to punch me because it's not going to be like, oh, things are rosy and things are great. You need to buy, you need to sell, things, it's going to be okay, and all that. I believe in being real. And what we're seeing right now is we've seen a slowdown in the marketplace. In fact, the last 7 days, I think 19 homes went under contract, which is really, really a slowish. I'm actually disappointed in a number of homes that have gone under contract the last 7 days. Does it mean that you should sit on the sidelines? I think there's an opportunity to buy right now with the least amount of competition. So I think there's a real opportunity also before season gets here. So now we're in that time period, middle of November, where I think there's some opportunities to pick up a property, even for people that you may not be moving until the summer of next year. Might be a great time to buy something at a little bit of a discount and rent it out if it's turnkey. We've got great property management company here where we're seeing 35, 4,000, $4,500 a month rentals, and we have a need still. We've seen an influx of properties come into our portfolio the last 2 months, and we've seen. I could tell you that every week we're getting about 12 to 15 people connecting with us on renting out their property. So that's a real thing. So that aside, let me actually, I texted Todd Hassey, our mortgage guy, and I said, okay, what's happening today? I haven't checked today on like the mortgage rates, interest rates, what's happening? And he says the current, I'm just going to read you verbatim from the text, current average rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage is 7.32. This is like 20 minutes ago, increasing 15 basis points over the last 7 days. Obviously, rates have gone up. No big surprise. Fed is still, raising their rate, their rate to lend to banks, and of course, that means the 10-year Treasury bond market goes up, and then because of that, then interest rates go up, right? So that's how that works. And since they're talking about we got to quell inflation, the inflation numbers came out a couple of days ago, and they did come down a little bit, but I was disappointed in that because it still wasn't low enough. Like Fed's saying they want to get it down to inflation down to 2-3%, and we're below 8 right now in inflation. We're talking about like year over year and month over month. But it's just under 8. It's like 7.75. I forget the exact number, but the inflation rate's still in the sevens, and they're trying to get it down to 3 or 4 or 2 or 3. Still not low enough. And the other thing that hasn't happened is whenever you do raise interest rates, the one thing that's happening, because we've seen a record increase, doubling of interest rates, never happened before. I've never heard anybody tell me that this has happened. We've seen higher interest rates, but we've never seen a doubling. Like we've gone from 3 to 6 plus in the same year. Never have we seen that, like a doubling like that. So severe, like a real severe, sharp increase in interest rates. We haven't had enough time for that to actually trickle through the system. And I'm hearing that since we haven't had a lot of time to go through the system, it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving into the future. Has me a little bit concerned, has a lot of people concerned about this. But bottom line, if you're thinking about selling, it's not as good of a time to sell as what we saw 7 months ago, but it doesn't mean that the beginning of next year is going to be a better time to sell. Maybe, maybe not. Interest rates are still going up, which means the demand could come down even more. So it is a legitimate concern. And I will tell you, I don't think we're in a crash. I don't think we're in a 2007-8 type of situation. But there's a lot of conversations we're having now that we haven't had in 15 years, which is sellers, please, please, please pay attention that the prices are not here anymore. They're not here. They're here. That's the bad news. They're below where they were. The good news is they're not down here, which is where they were in 2019. You give it some more time, we may be heading in that, where all the gains we made over the last couple of years in appreciation may disappear and we go back to 2019 pricing. But I think pretty much sellers were happy with 2019 pricing before. So why not again, unless they bought over the last couple of years. So, but there's something to be said for that too, because people that bought in 2006 at a peak in that cycle were disappointed to know that their house values went down in 2008. But if they held on for 14, 15 years, super happy because appreciation is still much greater. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions, love to see your comments as we're going through this. But the rest of Todd's message here on the mortgage market, bond market has opened up sharply following the release of extremely favorable inflation data. So obviously, like I said, inflation went down a little bit. Stocks are reacting to the same headlines. We did see a rally up in the stock market, so that's good. Bond market, and I haven't seen today's. The bond market is currently up 3.85, which will create a significant improvement in the morning's mortgage rates. The spike in mortgage bond prices this morning is too large to estimate just how much it'll translate to actual mortgage pricing, since some lenders may not reflect the full move in today's rates in case there is a retreat later in the day. So it sounds like he's anticipating a little bit of movement because the bond market is up. That means that there's a good chance that we could see an increase in mortgage rates maybe next week. It looks like that's what it looks like. So good opportunity. We actually seen talked to several of my people today, and they're seeing an increase in activity today because we're like, oh my gosh, rates are going to go up. Let me jump on the bandwagon. So that's a thing for sure. Let's take a look at, let's jump into, I want to share with you a couple things that I'm seeing here that are really interesting. And let's take a look at this. So when we're looking at the market, the Villages real estate market, let me blow this up so you can see this. So when we're looking at this, what we're seeing is, let's go back to the lower end of the market. We'll start there. So I'm noticing this. There's like a couple of anomalies. So I'm noticing the patio villas. You look at patio villas, and there was a patio villa. Let's see, this was in, I think, Cayley Villas. I think this is where this is. Yep, this is in Cayley Villas. And I remember probably this is 2021. This is a year and a half ago. We had sold a property very similar to this that sold for just about this price. So we're seeing a return into 2021 pricing, and this one hasn't sold, $255 for a nice, well-located patio villa. Super interesting, right? Like I think that's a real thing there, where it's like a standard patio villa. It's not super outstanding, but it looks like it's in good condition. That says a lot to me. So a little bit of a return, especially with patio villas, back to 2021 pricing. So let's take a look at some more properties in a higher price range, and we're going to randomly pick some. Let's take a look at something like this. This is 2002. This is on Pineland Terrace, and this is Amarillo for 315. We were seeing Amarillos, and this has been on the market for 113 days. I think the days of properties, Amarillo is going for like 340, 350, which is what we saw. We've seen a retreat and a little bit of deflation here in pricing. Wouldn't be surprised 300 and maybe even going a little bit below that would not be terribly surprising. So, this is a thing too. So this particular Amarillo, right? So we showed you a patio villa, now an Amarillo, just giving you an idea of the pricing. I think some pretty good values for people that are out there. And, especially if these properties are turnkey, there could be an opportunity there. And this one has newer roof, newer HVAC, AC. That's a real thing. And by the way, for the folks that missed it, we did have a home inspection interview last, when was that? It was Wednesday. So it was the last video that we did. So you may want to watch that. Super informative. There were some people had wished we had talked about price. And I think you're talking about $400 to $500 average price for an inspection, right? So, but if you have questions about that, that's probably a pretty good video to watch for inspections. Why get an inspection? The benefits, the negatives, all that kind of stuff. Let's look at this one here. I'm just randomly picking. I'm looking at like maybe some different floor plans. So we give you an idea in different locations too. This one's actually in Marion County. This one's 335 and 1392. This is in Chatham. This is also in Amarillo. Let's look at something maybe a little bit bigger. Let's look at something. Let's go to maybe 1527. Right. So let's look at this one. This one's a little bit bigger. This is also a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And let's see. This is going for 350. Let's take a look at, actually, let's jump into this. Let's look at, if you have questions about something, let me know. You can actually put it in the chat. Let's look at maybe some pending properties, which gives us an idea of what's going under contract, gives you an idea of what's happening live. Okay. So let's look at that. We'll go live. We got 93 properties that are currently pending, which is actually a really low number. I think that's why we're seeing some price adjustments or price improvements. Let's look at, all right, this is like, look at this one. This one's in Marion Villages. This is actually under contract for 385, right? This is a custom property, Marion Villages. So 385, built in 2004. Obviously in Marion County. This looks like a really good buy on this one because this is, yes, it's in Marion County, a little bit further up. You got a little bit of privacy in the back. I can see a bird cage. It's in Woodbury, and not too far away. Bond balance is only $21.62, but for the square footage, $186 a square foot, 2,065 in square feet. It's actually really, 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 I feel like a good buy as long as there's nothing wrong with it after inspection. Let's take a look at, let's move forward on this. Let's see some other pretty good buys that we've seen. Let's look at this. This one's older place is actually going to be closer to Spanish Springs, San Antonio Lane, golf cart garage. Now this is super interesting. This is actually will explain what I've talked about at length, which is, this is a, obviously three bedroom, 2-bath, Veracruz model, older, obviously, bond is paid, obviously, but newer roof, right, 2020. So you got a little bit of updating here, solid surface countertops and stuff like that. 437,000, and the Veracruz is that's a larger model, right? That's a larger model with, I think we're 2,300 square feet, and it still looks like it needs a little bit of updating, but there's some niceness to it, right? It looks like a lot of the stuff has been updated. That's a real good value. And look at this, active days on the market, went under contract in 5 days. So this is something that we're seeing. There's a little bit of a paradox in the market. Like we're seeing longer days on market, but the things that are just priced really, really well, look sharp, ready to go, those are selling faster, right? They're going under contract quicker. If there's something wrong with it, or if it's not fabulously priced, it's gonna sit. It's absolutely gonna sit. There's no doubt about it, no question about it. And I know it's not fabulous news. Everybody likes to be like, oh yeah, things are great. We're going to get the most money for your home, and we're going to get more money for your home. And that was a conversation we're having with sellers in 2019, 2020, 21, and part of 22. But that the narrative has actually changed. Now here's another one, 525. This is actually further south of 466A, Village of LaBelle, built in 2015. This is an Iris designer. This is, obviously really, really sharp home, and went under contract in 48 days. But that tells you, look, that's, sometimes you need a little bit of seasoning, right? 525, yep, 525 original price and sold for 525. And it took, 48 days, right? Gives you an idea of what's happening there. Now let's look at a little bit higher end in the pending properties. We have 3 properties that are over $1 million that are pending. And if we look at this, let's look at this particular home. Let's look at this one. Let's look at Orangeworth, right? Over $1 million. Golf course, water frontage, premier, next to Palmer Legends. I mean, it's really, it's between the sixes, nice pool. It seems like it has a lot of different things. This might have sold for 1.3, 1.4, 6, 7, 8 months ago, right? So we've seen an adjustment there. But once again, we are seeing property sell and, selling in a matter of, 80 days. So a combination of properties taking a little bit longer or a lot longer compared to what we saw maybe 6 months ago. I mean, I think that's a legitimate thing to look at. So that's one thing. You know, 822. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking at the inventory count in the villages in August 12th, 2022 this year. So that's what, three months ago, 218. So we've seen a rise of, what is that, 59 properties, which is the equivalent of probably about 20%, 20-25% increase in inventory the last 3 months. Okay. Now, percentages can be deceiving, but everything that we've been talking about is holding true. There's one thing that hasn't held true, and we're going to talk about that. So obviously interest rates going up, inflation going up, or coming down a little bit because of interest rates. That's helpful, which means that we're probably going to see a little bit more interest rate moving up over the long term, probably ups and downs periodically, but long term still, I think we have a little bit more to go because they're trying to get inflation down only with interest rates. And you can argue about that all day long. I know there's a lot of political discussion on that. You can write down, you have some comments on it, please feel free. You can put it on there. But overall, we're seeing increase in inventory. Remember that the high in inventory, we've talked about this, and this was like 2.5 years ago, back at 451, we're still not there, but demand is significantly lower, which is the reason why we're seeing an increase in inventory, right? We're seeing that 20 to 25% increase in inventory. What's going to happen next? I'm getting that question. I know some people are nervous about buying right now. And look, I think it's going to be kind of like this. I think we're going to see a wonky market over the next, 18, 24 months. I think we're going to see this for a bit. There's nothing that changes overnight. Like the market's going to change and interest rates going to go down to 5 next year. I don't see it. I'd be surprised unless we see, the interest rate thing is really having a large impact on the economy. And then it's like, oh, we better pull back here and lower the interest rates. That could happen. But I think if that happens, by the way, because, and I've talked about this before, because we're seeing millennials buy at record pace and they need a place, they're renting now because maybe the interest rates are high, those interest rates come down, then they're going to jump back into the marketplace and things are going to be like hopping and I think will fly off the shelf again because it's too early for those interest rates to come down, in my opinion. But if it does happen, then guess what? Everybody that's trying to time the market and buy low is going to miss the timing. And that's why I think right now is the perfect time to buy when people are pessimistic about buying real estate, just like they were super optimistic last year about buying. The opposite is happening now. Now's the time to jump in, get it at the price that makes you feel comfortable, but don't buy if it puts you in a weird position. I'm not going to advocate that. So if you don't have the money or you can't afford the home, don't do it. But if you can afford it, you've got cash, perfect time to jump in, make an offer, let it sit. Don't be arrogant about it when you put in an offer. Don't let your realtor be arrogant about it. Just explain, okay, this is what we can do. No, don't take this, personally. It's a business decision. And, you might be able to find some deals. I'm seeing that happen right now, right? So there's opportunity there for sure. I know some realtors are going to punch me. My own people will probably want to kick me, but I believe in being, super, super honest about all this. Bond market is closed today because of, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So bond market, that's why there's no movement. Thanks, Rock. I forgot. By the way, happy Veterans Day. Thank you. Thank you, Rock, for that reminder. For everybody that served, thank you for your service, 1,000,000%. We have a lot of veterans here in this community, and for many years we've done lots of work with the veterans. A couple of years back, we did the Vietnam War Memorial. We've done the Bushnell Cemetery. We've planted flags there in memoriam, and certainly, so happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service, all that have served. If you have served, I think that's the topic. If you have served, please put that in the chat and just say where you served, what branch did you serve, right? So give us the details. I'd love to hear from all of you on that. But that's my take on things right now. I'm a little, I wouldn't say I'm nervous, but I am a little bit surprised about the lack of demand here in the villages the last, I'd say, probably 3 months, because we've seen the demand, and I understand why. But we've seen the demand. If you look at the surrounding areas like Marion County outside the villages, the everyday, first-time home buyer, they're still buying. But we've seen a pretty good decrease in the number of homes that people that in the villages are buying. So it's interesting to me to see that, and I think a lot of it has been predicated on the election and stocks, and I get it. So I understand why, but I'm still a little bit surprised by it. If you have questions, please call me. If you're interested in renting out your place, if you got a home and like, you know what, now's not the time to sell, I want to rent out my place, give me a call, 352-572-3796, or just call the office, right? You can talk to Lori or Sandra in our property management division, 352-753-7500, 352-753-7500. And I want to wish everybody a happy Veterans Day and have a great weekend. Take care.